welcome to One Move TV. I'm Georgina Burnett and today I'm in Cheam in Surrey to meet up with this month's property guru, Steve Goodfellow of Goodfellows. The estate agency consists of 12 offices selling new and resale homes, as well as an award-winning letting management business. We'll be putting to him questions sent in by you, the viewers, on a number of property-related issues.
Steve Goodfellow. The business is called Goodfellows and I'm the Chief Executive. We started about 18 years ago, just an estate agency, and we've subsequently grown that into a range of services and offices. I think we have a total of 12 offices in all, which comprise 7 estate agency offices, 2 lettings offices, a separate land and new homes division, a survey division which also has a business called Home Information Bureau, which provides HIPs to the local market. We also have a separate mortgage shop called Mortgage Advice Bureau, which has advisors for that in all of our estate agency offices. Number of staff, I believe we have around 95 to 100 staff. Our staff turnover is quite low actually, and we've always been proud of our staff retention. People stay with us for a long time, which means we keep the experience within the business, and I think that's very important. The estate agency itself has 2 brands. We market ourselves as Goodfellows Estate Agents, and that's in the normal mid-market, and Fine & Country is a brand that we took on last year to market properties in the upper quartile. The sort of property that would appeal to, I suppose, is not only based on price, it's also charming cottages, luxury flats, well presented. Most particularly, it's based on location, which is always important. And we have offices for Fine & Country in the Cheam area, Cheam Village, and also in Merton Park, Wimbledon, where those sort of properties are, more often crop up. What do we hope to achieve? This year we're anticipating opening an auction house. I would think by certainly the middle of the year we will be doing our first auction, because the idea there is to bring auctions out into the suburbs and the regions, because at the moment it only really happens in central London to a great degree, and I think people don't really understand what auctions are all about, and I think what we would like to do is bring it to the ordinary person and possibly even first-time buyers. With the divisions we have, such as Mortgage Advice Bureau and surveys, I can see us being able to do pre-approved mortgages and perhaps even surveys on the auction properties that we can provide to people, to give them an opportunity to come in with a survey arranged and also a mortgage arranged and be confident that they can go and bid at the auction. And we would like to widen that out into the wider arena, I think.
So David Davies wants to know how the result of his HIP will affect the sale of his property.
Well, HIPs are designed to speed up the house buying and selling process. The government estimates that over £1 million a day was being wasted on survey fees and other upfront costs for people through gazundering and gazumping. Now, a lot of the stuff that used to be the documents that were put into place later in the transaction have to be provided up front. So, but the answer is it doesn't affect you putting the house on the market as long as you commission a HIP. It doesn't mean you can't put the house on the market on day one, and ultimately it should help to speed up the process and cause less time delays or possibly fall-throughs going forward by this information and all the being ironed out earlier on in the transaction.
And why should David get a HIP?
As to why Mr. Davies should get a HIP is because under new legislation all estate agents have to sign up to the Ombudsman for Estate Agents scheme, and the rules of that provide that a HIP must be provided prior to a house being sold, so the estate agent has to make sure that a HIP is applied for. It's a legal requirement, in short.
Jason Wright wants to know more about HIPs in general and how much the cost of an average HIP would be.
The government say that the cost for an average HIP should be between £300 and £400, which is generally the case. There are instances where it can be obtained cheaper, but that's usually by providers who then insist that other services are taken up as part of that arrangement, such as conveyancing.
Stephen Hope wants to know how he can get the best price for his property.
Okay, well, obviously I haven't seen Stephen's property, but at the same time I think the answer generally would be presentation, presentation, presentation. as much as when you're buying a property, often it's said that it should be location, location, location. Make sure the property is something that if you were looking to buy, you'd be impressed by, and generally the answer is declutterize, make it look as spacious, as airy and as clean as possible. But the other thing you should also do is pick a very good estate agent, one that's obviously being successful in your area and that you feel when you speak to them can give you the right advice and professionalism.
Now, Karina Turner has said that the market is supposed to crash. How is that going to affect her as a seller?
Well, hopefully the market won't crash. I don't think it's likely to crash. That's an extreme term. There's a lot of demand in the UK property market, but I think that certainly confidence has reduced to some extent, and I expect a stabilisation in prices, and they may be instances where prices do drop. But if Karina's looking to buy another property, then presumably that one will also reduce in price to the same extent, and if in fact she's looking to move up market, she'd actually be better off by a reduction in her property and in the next one, because on a percentage basis, if they both reduce by the same percentage, the difference between the two properties will be better for her.
Ricky Page wants to know how what's happening in the market is going to affect mortgages and other associated costs.
Well, what's happening in the market, if we talk about the whole economy, I suppose, is that as a result of the crisis that has occurred in America from the subprime lending, then caused the problem for Northern Rock, which I'm sure you've all heard about in the news, which I think has generally affected confidence, particularly from lenders and what they will lend. There's been a bit of a credit crunch, as they call it. What this has meant is that the banks and building societies are now less willing to do 100% or 95% mortgages, and they're only going to lend to people with perhaps more stringent criteria. So it's perhaps to some extent reduced the number of people that can afford to buy a property and get the essential borrowing. Going forward, though, I think I see that situation improving as the banks, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank and the Bank of England have looked to put money back into the lending markets, and but the lenders are now going for longer term fixed rates, and I think they're probably good things to look for, actually, because I think that will become more competitive. The market itself has slowed down towards the back end of last year, but in fact already in our locations there is evidence that there's still quite a lot of activity, so I don't think it's quite as bad as some of the newspapers are making out.
And finally, how can you find out who's a great estate agent in your area? And that's from Jane Rivers.
The answer to that is have a look round and see who's active. Boards are always a good indication of who's doing well, but that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story, so possibly pick an agent that is pick 2 or 3 or 4 agents in the area who are obviously active, have good adverts, have a good website, have good board presence, and then invite them round and go with the one that you feel most confident in, the one that can demonstrate perhaps the best marketing plan for your property and convince you that they are the experts in the area. Beware of just going for the one who gives you the highest valuation or the lowest fee, because that doesn't always mean that you're going to result in the best net price for your property.
That was Steve Goodfellow of Goodfellows, and if you have any burning questions you'd like to ask an industry expert, do email us at tv@onemove.com.